and welcome to the Pig and Whistle Tales from Azeroth. As always, here at the Pig and Whistle Inn in Stormwind, I go through a variety of subjects with regards to World of Warcraft. Grab a bottle or a pint, sit back and enjoy it. This midweek episode, we'll be going over the recent, interview or Warcraft video that Blizzard essentially released, and it is sort of a Q&A with Chris Metzen. And a lot of interesting points are, and in this Q&A, essentially going over the World Within and the World Soul Saga and a few more bits and bobs. And if we have time at the end, we'll have a look at the end of the Time Walking, Mr. Pandaria Time Walking, and be gauging the sort of community's reaction to it and how people felt towards it now that it has ended. So, the video is on World of Warcraft's website on YouTube, and essentially it is Chris Metzen going not into depth with everything, but giving us a bit of a look at what is to come and what's happening. So, a brief summary essentially is that essentially they're already mapping out patches 13.1 and 13.2 and how they'll play out. So, to put this into perspective, we are currently in patch 10.3, I think. Yes, 10.3. And the War Within is currently patch 11. And then you obviously have the 11.1, 11.2, 11.3. Or that's the usual that we have it. We don't know if that's going to be changed in the coming year because obviously it's going to be a bit more of a squished schedule, so we don't know if we're going to be cutting sort of an entire patch if we'll only get 11.1 and 2, or if they'll stick with the 3 patches and just roll them out a bit quicker and more rapid fire essentially. But before that, you obviously, or in between them, you have the 0.5 patches, so 0.5, 1.5, 2.5, etc. Now, 13.1 and 13.2 is what they are mapping out currently. Mapping out a patch, even 2 patches, that are 2 expansions ahead is crazy. So, to put it into perspective, the War Within is going to release, and the War Within will end, okay? And then we will move on to 12.0, which is Midnight. That's going to be the Midnight expansion. And then you're going to end the Midnight expansion, and then you're moving into the Last Titan expansion. You're not even, getting to the point where they're mapping it out yet. The first patch after the release of the Last Titan is what they are currently mapping out. They are mapping out essentially about, what would it be, 8-ish patches later, which is really, really good. This means that they obviously have a clear directive in what they are doing and where they're going, and it means that they have something constantly on the go. So you've got a team that are doing, patch 11.2, 11.3, and then 12.0, 12.1, etc., which is really, really good to hear. And it's glad that, or I think it's quite well received news that they are already mapping these out and essentially planning them, which is really, really good. They are also talking about concepts for expansions up to 17. I'm not sure if this is 17th expansion or patch 17.0, but I think it comes to the same if I'm not mistaken. So what would this be? At the end of the final Titan, it's going to be patch 13.3, okay? And then we'll move into patch 14, okay? So you're going to have 14, 15, 16, and 17 that are concepts at the moment. These expansions are very much concept expansions. Obviously, there will be a lot of ideas thrown around, and we can't really speculate as to what they might be. We don't know if they're going to be another trilogy or another sort of... No, I don't think... Is there a word for when you do 4 sort of movies or films or, I'm not sure. I'm thinking something quadruple, but I honestly have no idea. But essentially, they are looking very far ahead at the moment. I would like the War event to go very smoothly on the release, and I would like for them to get patch 11.5 out very quickly on the PTR to show that they are dedicated to giving us this quick patch cycle, essentially. He also said that the goal for characters in the saga itself is to age the existing characters up and not age characters out of the story. And also make sure that the new ones are introduced aren't just one-offs who are sort of left behind. I think the best example for this is, I forget his name, but I know that his nickname was Zappy Boy. Essentially, he was in BFA, and he hasn't had a lot since BFA. So he was in the cinematic for BFA, he was in the Saurfang sort of cinematics, and he was the young troll that was talking to Saurfang. And we saw him quite a lot throughout BFA and obviously like going forward. But Shadowlands, I'm pretty sure we haven't seen him. Dragonfly, now Horde players will have to tell me, but I'm pretty sure he's not there. I'm pretty sure he's just kind of vibing in Orgrimmar right now, not doing a lot. And people who never played through BFA or watched the cinematics will not know who this is. And this is meant to be one of the upcoming sort of characters who is going to be replacing or taking sort of a more forward role in the story for the trolls, potentially, because you obviously had Vol'jin die back in Legion, and Vol'jin was a very well-renowned troll. He was a very good troll, like, for the Horde, for the Alliance, for Warcraft in general, and they never really replaced him. Obviously, you have Rokan, I think it's Rokan, who is currently leader of the trolls, or the Dark Spirit at the very least, and like, no one really knows what he's done. He's, you know, kind of shrouded in a lot of mystery to a lot of people because people don't look up lore on these certain characters. So hopefully they do a bit better with these newer characters coming in, and they actually give them a bit more of a stable point, because you're going to be looking at Anduin, Jaina, Thrall, Khadgar. Now, Xal'atath is probably the newest one that was introduced all the way back in BFA. Not even BFA, Legion, technically, with the Blade. And, like, she's been built up over the course of expansions and actually has, like, good sort of background now and a lot of simple information that newer players who just simply quest can figure out. They don't need to go into the lore of anything and really deep dive to search this character. They know who Xal'atath is. It's the priest artifact weapon who essentially got freed by us and N'Zoth. And then in BFA, we helped her obtain a... No, we did that already in BFA. We helped her obtain a body. But, you know, there was multiple things that happened throughout these expansions, and she slowly grew in the background to become a villain, which is really, really good. And I hope that this is what they do with newer sort of characters. They really build them up over the course of a bit of time and put some love into them, because the characters that we have now are obviously... Technically, they should be 20 odd years older than what they are. Now, Jaina, for example, looks and feels like 20 years older because of what she's gone through with Theramore, with her brothers, with BFA, you know, all of that stuff. Whereas Khadgar is just Khadgar. He's always, you know, doing Khadgar things. Nothing's really changed. Anduin's a very good example as well. His story has progressed. They're all, again, not the best of story arcs and stuff, but hopefully they give these new characters some love and attention. He also said about the stakes like going up, essentially, and whether the stakes going up is blowing up a planet or killing off a character. And with doing the latter of the two, so killing a character, they will make sure they frame it with the gravity rather than the shock value. This is sort of like Tyrion Fordring in Legion, when everyone sort of stormed the Waking Shore, or not the Waking Shore, the Broken Shore, and you worked your way up the Broken Shore, and you just see Tyrion, and he essentially just dies right in front of you. You don't get a chance to save him, you don't get any build-up. It is just, oh shit, he's dead. And he's a really big lore figure at the time, because he was the one who helped you take down Arthas and the Lich King and stuff like that. He was the wielder of the Ashbringer, a very well-renowned weapon that has loads of lore within the game. So there's multiple different things that you can do. But yeah, the shock value isn't great. It's more, oh god, something bad's going to happen. Kind of like a horror movie. It's like something bad's going to happen, but you don't know who it's going to happen to. And then that's what the shock is. Oh, it's this person who's dying instead. That kind of thing. He essentially says that he wants as many players as possible to allow, or he loves having options for players. So I'm hoping that this means that we'll get gnome druids potentially, and sort of night elf paladins, stuff like that. If a tauren can be a rogue, any other class can be anything. All right, that is what I will say. And he does say within this that it is part of a larger narrative. This is 1 out of 3 parts, this expansion. So if the ending is not a conclusive ending, it's not meant to be. It's meant to be a sort of feed where you go into the next expansion and it's like, oh shit, this is a big bad that we've just, unleashed by saving this, person. Now we've got to go deal with that so that it doesn't, engulf our world or kill these certain people, that sort of stuff. So please, it is not a one-off expansion. It's not killing Arthas at the end of Wrath of the Lich King. It's not killing Deathwing. It's not killing, kill Jaden in Burning Crusade. All right, it's not a big bad. It is very much big bads. And it will all come to a point at the end of the Last Titan and at the end of the trilogy, okay? So please remember that. The resolution for the Sword of Sargeras will not happen until the Last Titan, and its tease in the War Within cinematic was intended as a full arc story. So the War Within cinematic was the one with Anduin and Thrall, and essentially the tease was showing the big sword at the end of the cinematic. Now, this is big because essentially that sword has been there since Legion, okay? That sword has been there for 8 years now, okay? Well, just under 8 years. How crazy is that? And it's just sat there. It's done nothing. In terms of WoW, I think we've had a 10-year skip. I think it's something along them lines. But if you factor in the events of BFA, and then you factor in the events... What was it? Legion before BFA? I think it was. So essentially you have Shadowlands and BFA, which took probably 2, 3, 4 years, however much, in-game. And then you've got this time skip, which is, I think, 8 to 10 years. I can't remember exactly. But you're looking at essentially 10 years minimum in-game that this sword has just been stuck there. Okay, it's just been sat in Silithus doing nothing. So hopefully this is a real big payoff, this sword, because it has been there a while and we need it sorted, okay? Xal'atath isn't like a Deathwing where you defeat her at the end of the War Within, and she's one and done. So she is not a single raid boss. She will appear multiple times throughout the arc of the saga, okay? So there will obviously be a time where we face her for real and we will kill her. What I would enjoy is if at the end of some raids or during some raids, you have potentially one boss that is empowered with Xal'atath, okay? This means that the boss that is empowered will have extra abilities or something like that, or Xal'atath will enter the fight and help this boss. You have no idea what boss it is that week. It is completely random. I think that will give it a bit of a mix up for the raids, and I think it will be a bit more enjoyable. Now, you might have to say what ones they are for the Mythic Raiders, maybe for Race to World First, but after Race to World First is done, you simply turn it off, and everyone's like, oh shit, we don't know if it's the first boss or the last boss that has Xal'atath helping, so we need to take every sort of boss fight with a little bit of pinch of salt. Now, obviously, during the fight, you'll have voice lines or sort of something that can trigger you to say, this is a Xal'atath fight, you need to do it, like, properly, essentially. I definitely would like that, and I would not like to see her as a boss in the normal and not controversial, the normal sort of standard boss fight. So she's the last boss of point 2, and then she runs away, and then you fight her in the next expansion in the first raid, and then the last raid, and stuff like that. I would like to see her throughout all of the raids that we're doing, continuously helping the people that she's making deals with or gaining power with and stuff like that, as it will give her that sort of you can't catch her element. And then at the end, when we fully do find her, she's a bit run down, she's a bit more ragged, and she comes out as a sort of true form kind of thing, maybe. I would like that. I think it would be a really cool concept, and I think it's a very wacky idea. It's something that they haven't done with a boss, I believe. I think the closest that they ever come to is maybe something like Cho'Gall in Bastion of Twilight, where after the first boss, he's like at the end of the gauntlet, and the more you progress, like he runs back and stuff. It's kind of like you're chasing him. But that's kind of what I think, in my honest opinion, and I think it will be really cool. I think it will be definitely something that you can try. We shouldn't expect the full meal in the War Within, and to expect the story to continue over the full saga to feel fitting as a perfect crescendo of 20 years of storytelling for the anniversary, which is fair enough. I think it's very fitting that, the best parts and the ending happen at the end of the saga. If you look at Lord of the Rings, it's very good, like where they end off, like each individual movie. But essentially, the third movie is where it all comes to a peak, and it's where everything that has been happening within the movie or movies gets resolved and finished and all of that stuff, and it's a good payoff, so hopefully they can do it with the War Within and the Last Titan saga, but we'll just have to wait and see, I guess. And he said, and I quote, "You are not prepared for that moment, for the resolution to the sword, which seems like a possible Illidan tease, in my opinion." And I think Wowhead agrees with me. So, "You are not prepared" is obviously a very famous line spoken by Illidan Stormrage. The last time we saw Illidan is after the Argus fight in Legion. And the Argus fight very much ends in the seat of the Pantheon, which is where all of the Titans are. Now, with the ending of the trilogy of expansions being called The Last Titan, I would imagine we're seeing all of the Titans again in some shape or form. And with the Titans comes along Illidan, because Illidan stayed with the Titans to guard Sargeras, essentially, like being his what would it be? Prison warden? Yeah, his warden, watching over him. Now, I would love to see Illidan back in the game. I think Illidan is such a good character. I think he's one of the best characters that Warcraft have ever produced. I have so much love for the character in terms of his interactions with other characters, Malfurion, Tyrande, even the Legion ones where you have like Jared Shadowsong. You have multiple different things that have happened because of him. And he is such a lore significant character. We always thought back at the end of Legion that they kept him in that sort of pocket space for, a potential return later on. And I think that's what they're going to do here. I think that they are going to bring back Illidan, and I think personally it'll be a nice little payoff. They'll kill a couple of characters within the next couple of expansions. Maybe they'll kill off Jaina, Anduin, Thrall, anyone really, any potential one they could kill off. Maybe Rokan, and then I forget his name, Zappy Boy, will essentially just take his place. But it will also be sort of evened out with the return of Illidan, or maybe someone else. Multiple different things. Yeah, you know what? Fuck it. Arthas comes back from the dead. You know, he's not 35 anima anymore. We're just resing Arthas, and he's a good guy now. That's it. I would like to see, after the War Within saga, or the Last Titan saga, whatever it's called, I would like to see a Void. A Light and Void saga. I think you can have 3 of them, obviously. Like, you can have one as the light, one as the void, and then you can have the sort of peak of it, or the crescendo of it, both of them, you know, an intergalactic light and dark dance off, essentially. You're just fighting everything. Like, you go to the light's home and you realize, oh, these are some actually bad dudes. Like, they mean to do their own thing, and they don't care how they do it as long as it gets done. And the Void are the same, and you actually have to fight both of them and be like, yo, you're going to destroy everything, you got to just chill. And, you know, we sort of deal with that. That's what I would like. I would like to see a Light and Void expansion or trilogy, because I love the idea of the Light in WoW and the Void in WoW. They've been there since the very start of Warcraft, with paladins and priests, obviously. Priests wielding both Void and Holy. You obviously have multiple things that can wield Holy and Shadow. You have cultists in WoW. You have sort of the Scarlet Crusade, who are Holy, sort of enemies and stuff like that. So I would like to see that after the Last Titan saga, but I'm really looking forward to the War Within. It comes out tomorrow for those who have early access, as of this episode going live, and it comes out in 5 days of this episode going live. So I think it's Sunday. Yes, I think it's Sunday. I'm trying to think. 5 days, 26th. It is Monday. I am incorrect. It is Monday that it comes out. If you look up the release times, it is a global release. I believe in Europe it's around the 10 p.m. mark, somewhere around there. And then you can obviously go off of that. But that is where I'll end this episode, because I want to keep it more War Within based at the moment, actually, because very much going to be happening a lot throughout the week. Friday's episode will most likely be my take on the current War Within stuff that's happening. So I know someone who has the early access. I don't have it myself. I'll be, peeping in on what they're doing, looking at the quests, going through all of that, and getting some information on what you guys can dig into on the Friday episode. But thank you all very much for listening. As always, do check out the socials down below. And please check out the Etsy shop that we have recently opened. There's good stuff happening on there. There's a few 3D prints of a lot of Warcraft stuff and bits and bobs also. Thank you all very much once again. And go with valor, friend. Goodbye all.